Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Marsha.
How are you today?
Oh, my goodness. It's Wednesday evening, everyone. So we've both had kind of long days again. But we'll try to have energy. Actually, I thought of this on the way home. You know, like, okay, make sure you're not coming across on the podcast like, oh, I'm so tired. Because I've been up since you know when. But I don't ever feel like that when I'm recording. Once I'm recording, it's kind of like once I'm in the classroom, that goes away.
Well, I've been up since about 5, and I will admit on my way I was driving home thinking, I do not want to record. I think maybe I'll call Kelly and ask her if we can skip. Now I'm home. I'm sat down. I have a beer in hand, which is well deserved. Yes. So now I'm actually excited and happy to talk. So
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have my glass of wine. I put on my pajamas right when I walked into the house, fed the dogs, came upstairs, got everything ready to record. You know, usually we used to record in the afternoon on Wednesdays, and most of the time we do. But this Wednesday I had a late meeting till 5, so I wasn't home until after 5 o'clock. And I thought I was getting a reprieve from the 4 a.m. wake up calls from Rudy because daylight savings time happened, right?
Yes.
And so she didn't know it was daylight savings time, so she thought it was 4 a.m. when it was 5 a.m. And that was beautiful. And it lasted for 2 effing days. And then someone told her it was daylight savings time. And I was up at 5 to 4 this morning.
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
Well, I have to say I'm exhausted because what I've been dealing with a lot of things, but at my mother's house, which I've talked about, we still have and we use it. I had noticed 3 weeks ago that there was an exhaust smell in the house. So I called the furnace person. They came a couple days later and said it was the exhaust, instead of exhausting out of the house, was exhausting in the house.
Oh, that's bad.
The carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
And okay. I know everyone's going to be listening. Well, how come you don't have carbon monoxide detectors? I will now. I don't have them yet, but I will go get them because we did not have them in the house. It's an old house, and we didn't have them. So it's been a 3-week process to get the part of it. We went to the beach.
Yeah, you were gone for a little while to get warm.
Because the house, it's cold here. The house was 44 degrees inside. And so I'm a little exhausted today because I had to get over there to let them in. They arrived, 8 or 8:15 or something. And then I'm sitting around in a house that's 44 degrees inside. Now, there is the library. There's an extra room off the kitchen that I think I don't know when they did it, but they put in a little electric wall unit heater. Thank goodness my parents did that because I sat in there and tried to stay warm, but I had on a heavy, long sleeve t-shirt, heavy polar fleece, my 1960s Filson jacket, wool hat, wool scarf, hand knit wool socks, and I was still cold. So, and I was thinking, thank goodness I have some hand knits, right? I have wool.
That's right.
Thank goodness for wool.
Yep.
I left the house with 61 degrees when I left. So
that's good.
The temperature's rising, but when a house is that cold for that long, like even the furniture is cold to sit on, And then before we started recording, Kelly, you and I were talking. I also had to help my brother move furniture.
The adventures Mark takes you on.
Yes, I am an ox. This is the joke in the family, that I am an ox and I have to move things. So anyway, or you could say I'm a sucker too. That's probably more.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, no, I can say that about myself. But anyway, I'm home, and then the other thing too is I got home and found out that Ben is not feeling well, so I had to turn around and go out and get soda crackers and 7-Up.
Man.
But now I'm sitting here in front of my computer with my microphone and a ice cold glass holding beer.
All right,
so I'm feeling fine.
And do you have knitting?
I have knitting.
Okay.
I'm working on knitting.
You've got everything you need then.
I know. I don't need anything else. I'm happy. And I have a dog at my feet.
Perfect.
Yes, life is good.
Yes, my dogs are downstairs, so they don't make too much noise.
Anyway.
But they're fed and happy, and of course Rudy's sleeping. She has to sleep all day because she wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
You need to go wake her up.
I know, really. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Should we talk knitting?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to talk about what you're working on?
No, you talk about yours first, because mine is sort of bad news.
Oh, okay.
We need a cheer up moment.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't have a huge amount to report. I've been working on the Mountain High pullover by Heidi Kirrmaier. And to remind people, I'm using the Croft Shetland Tweed by West Yorkshire Spinners. And this is the yarn that I mentioned that I bought at the Yarn Cake in Glasgow last March. Because I had, 3 full days, well, even longer than that, and then knitting in the car. But, so many days at the beach. I finished the body at the beach, and I picked up the first sleeve, and last night, I finished the first sleeve, I take that back. 2 nights ago, I finished the first sleeve and picked up for the second sleeve, and I have done let me look at it here. I have done 5 inches of the second sleeve.
Oh, wow.
So I'm making good progress on this.
Yeah.
It's going really fast. And I've tried it on a couple of times, and it seems like it's going to fit really well. I made the... let's see, there's 2 sizes of medium, a medium 1 and a medium 2. I'm making the medium 2, which would be a little too small through the bust line for me. But what I did, following the Amy Herzog method, you pick the size closest to that measurement, not across the bust line, but above the bust line. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. And then I did my math, and I added 8 stitches on the front of the sweater, just about, let me look at my markers. They are about, from the side seam, they're probably 4 inches from the side seam.
Okay. Yeah, like a third of the way in or something?
Yeah. And I put in 4, on the left and the right. And I spaced them about 1 inch apart. The first set is not, the second's not spaced very far from the first, which is probably a mistake. But anyway, I don't think anyone's going to notice.
No.
But it seems like it's going to fit really well. So it's not going to, it fits well through the shoulders, but it's roomy through the bust line because I didn't want anything tight.
Yeah.
So it looks nice, and I like this yarn. It's very nice. So I'm excited to finish it and block it, and so I'm going to have this sweater done in plenty of time for my next big trip. And Kelly, we've not talked about this before in the podcast.
But it's exciting.
I'm excited. My friend Kim and I went to Scotland last March for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and we had such a great time in Scotland, and we really didn't get to see the Highlands. So we're going back again in May. We leave May 24th, and the fibery thing that we're going to do is we're going to Louise Hunt's retreat, and she's Caithness Crafts. She has a podcast, and she's having a retreat beginning on May 30th at John O'Groats. And if anybody knows anything about Scotland, John O'Groats is at the very northeastern part of the country. It's basically just across a skip and a jump across the water to from the Orkney Islands. If people know the Castle of May, if you watch The Crown and you remember the Queen Mother buys a castle and restores it, that's the Castle of May. The Queen Mother restored it. That's near John O'Groats. So anyway, it's going to be really fun. We're going to go to that retreat. It's 3 nights, 2 full days, 3 nights. So anyway, I will have a new sweater to wear.
So cool.
Because I'm probably going to need it, even though it's the end of May, very beginning of June, first day of June. It probably is going to be cold up there.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, when we went to Scotland last March, I wore the combo spin sweater that I had made, my second combo spin. And I think I wore it every day. And I think I mentioned this in the last episode when I was talking about going to Madrona Fiber Arts with Kim. And the first morning we spent the night there, and the next morning get up and I put on that combo spin sweater, and Kim's comment to me was like, "Oh, my travel companion is back," because she had to look at me, for 2.5 weeks in that sweater.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is out of fairness and respect, and for Kim, I decided I needed to make a new sweater that I will be wearing every day that she can see me in. So anyway.
Nice. The retreat sounds super fun.
It's going to be super fun. And then the research we've been doing is there is a highway that the government has put together, cobbled together a series of highways, and it's called the North Coast 500. It's a 518-mile road that it starts in Inverness and goes all the way up the east coast of Scotland through John O'Groats, where we're going to be, then all the way across the north coast, down the west coast, and then back to Inverness. And so we're going to do that entire route. Nice. So it's going to be really fun, and I've been reading a really good book about it that I got on Amazon, and reading all about the history of the area and the things to do and see. So, and it sounds like it's here in the United States, we're used to highways. Like on the West Coast, we have Interstate 5, we have Highway 101. Mm-hmm. It sounds like the roads in that part of Scotland are one lane where you have turnouts. Right. I don't think they call them turnouts in Scotland, but where you have to pull over to the side of the road, and if there isn't one nearby, someone has to back up to the nearest turnout. And then when we were at Stitches, I was talking to we got to one of the women that came to dinner with us, Eileen. She had been there, and she's ridden on part of this North Coast 500, and she said the other thing that happens is there's a lot of sheep, and the warmest spot is the highways, because the sun is absorbed into the black pavement, right? So it's warm. Oh. And so the sheep just lay down in the road. So it sounds like driving is slow.
Yes. Not for the faint of heart or the impatient.
No. So. And I'm just grateful that Kim will be doing all the driving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, if anyone listens to the Caithness Craft Collective podcast, they know that Louise and her husband have a segment on that podcast called The Drams, where they drink whiskey, and they also have the drams at the retreat. So I'm jealous, Marsha.
Yes, and there's a couple distilleries that are nearby. Mm-hmm.
I would love to meet her in person. I've been listening to her podcast for a really long time. It'd be fun.
I know, Kelly, really you should be going to this.
Well, maybe another year when we finally get our 16-week calendar, and we don't go for 17 and a half weeks. Yeah. And we get out early enough that I can do stuff like this. That would be fun.
I know. You need a sabbatical. You need to figure out how you can
the amount of work to justify going on a sabbatical turns out not to be worth the sabbatical.
Not worth it. Okay.
So far they haven't awarded any. We only have had them back for a couple of years, and in the couple years that they have had them, where people could apply. They haven't been able to get their act together to figure out the application process well enough that they've actually awarded any. So at the moment, it's not worth it to go to all that work to apply, and then they don't know how to review the applications to decide who gets it. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm not doing that again. But one of these days, maybe I'll get a sabbatical. Yeah. Actually, they'll probably have their act together about the time I'm ready to because you have to learn something, right? You have to bring something back to the college. After 31, I've been there 31 years. After 31 years, they're going to start to wonder if I really have any value to bring back to the college. Like, hasn't she given everything she has? There's really nothing she could go learn and bring us. She's an old fogey. She doesn't have anything new to teach us. We're not giving her a sabbatical. Oh, well.
That's funny.
It's supposed, the word sabbatical is supposed to mean a rest, right? You don't get to rest.
No.
That's not the way they interpret it.
Well, this is now I'm doing a little bit of a sidetrack now, and I'm getting off of knitting, but about this trip to Scotland and going to Louise's retreat, and because she does the little dram tasting, I went last Monday, I think it was a week ago, I went to a whiskey tasting here in Seattle. And so those people who live in Seattle or near Seattle maybe have heard of a place in Fremont, which is a neighborhood in Seattle, and the place is called the Barrel Thief. And they serve wine and whiskeys. And I don't remember the number now, but they have a lot of whiskeys on tap. And I think they have I think he said 180. I might be wrong on that, but it's a huge number of wines that they have by the glass.
Wow.
Which is kind of unusual that you can have that many wines available by the glass. And then I don't remember how many whiskeys they have, but a lot. But that night I went with two friends, and we tasted 8 whiskeys. And the owner is Christopher. I'm not going to say his last name because I've completely forgotten. I'm blanked on his last name. But Christopher owns the Barrel Thief. He's been to Scotland. He goes there routinely to visit distilleries. Very, very knowledgeable. It was a great evening. Super fun. I'm glad we walked from my friend Susanna's house to the Barrel Thief and walked home. We needed that. And then went back to her house and ate cheese and crackers and had a pot of tea to recover before I went home. But really, if anybody is in the area and you have an opportunity to go to the Barrel Thief and take one of their whiskey tastings, I highly recommend it. It was really, really fun, super informative. Eat well before you go. I thought I had eaten well before I went, but I probably should have had a little bit more to eat before I went. All of us should have, but again, really fun. But that was a research for my Scotland trip.
Research. I love it.
Yeah, research. Yeah.
And anyway. And if you are in the area and you do go to the Barrel Thief, you can just tell everyone that you had to do it for research. For an upcoming trip to Scotland. You don't have to tell them when your trip to Scotland is. Just you're planning a trip to Scotland and you needed to do research. I love it.
Okay, now I'm now really getting off topic now. I mean, it's the same topic of alcohol, but do you remember when we were down at Stitches and we were having dinner with everybody on Saturday night, I think it was, and there was one of the women who was there, Celia, who I got the dress form from.
Yes.
Do you remember she said she and her friend were going out to all these different restaurants where she lives, and they were trying Manhattans?
Yes.
And they called it the Manhattan Project.
Yes. I thought that was funny.
I know. So I thought that was great. So I think that I would like to start a Manhattan Project here in Seattle and just try and find the best Manhattan in the city of Seattle. Honestly, my mother's recipe is the best. But anyway. Or Robert's. Robert's are the best in California.
Because Robert just does what Pody did.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Eric's are pretty good too. I have a friend at work who will periodically stop by my office with a paper sack and a jar inside. Or sometimes he'll come by the house and he'll drop off a little paper bag with a jar. He likes making cocktails, different kinds of cocktails, different recipes. He experiments with all sorts of infused things. and different types of bitters, but he is only allowed one drink per week. So he has adopted, thank God, he's adopted me as one of his people. He's adopted a group of us that he makes drinks for, and then will periodically drop off a little paper bag with drinks. And he makes a pretty good Manhattan too, only he calls it a woman-hattan.
Oh, really? Why does he do that? Oh,
well,
because he's giving it. Because he's giving it to you.
He's usually giving it to Aunt Betty. That's why he calls it a woman-hattan.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's funny. Okay.
Back to knitting.
I had just one last thing that I've been working on is I did a swatch. Also, when we were in Scotland last March, we went to the new Lanark mill, the wool mill in New Lanark.
That sounded really fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. Anyway, I bought some DK weight yarn to make a sweater for my brother, so I did a swatch out of that. So I've been on Ravelry looking for patterns. So
all right,
that's all I've done. I don't have much more to report. I've been working on that sweater so much, but I have set a goal to finish my rabbit by the Claire Garland rabbit by April so I could take it to Knockers, because there's been a request for me to bring it to Knockers, so that's my goal.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. I need a deadline.
So people can see it, yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
that's it for me for projects.
Okay. Well, I'll start with my good news.
Okay.
I've been working on what I'm now calling the Sonny Bono jacket. Because Janice texted me something and said something about the Sonny Bono jacket. It just cracked me up. And so then I went and looked at pictures. I just Googled Sonny Bono furry jacket. And they're mostly vests. I didn't actually find a jacket, but all of his like fake furry vests just cracked me up. So I thought, I need to call it that. So, but then the other thing, somebody said that I should call it Not a Bit Sheepish.
That's good too.
And it's not, because it's mohair. So,
yeah, right.
So I'm calling this jacket by both names, and what it is a mohair tail spun yarn, hand spun by someone else who actually raised the goats and spins the yarn, and then it's sold at Amazing Yarns. So I have used up all but one skein, and then I have parts of two other skeins. So I made the back, it's done. I made the front, one of the fronts, and then there's a little ball of yarn still attached to it, because you have to add to the collar once you've got all the pieces together. And then I've got the other front with a little ball of yarn still attached to it, again, because you pick up the collar and so once you've done the two fronts, you have some live stitches on the lapel, and you knit both of those kind of toward the back, and then you join them in the back of the collar. So I haven't done that part yet because I haven't sewn any pieces together, but I have sleeves to go, and I have one skein left. I knew I was probably going to run out because she didn't have the number of skeins that the pattern called for. She had one fewer, and I was thinking I probably would even need another one after that. So I need to call Amazing Yarns and order it. And she did say she was, when she got back after stitches, she was going to call, I think her name is Becky, the woman who has the ranch with the goats, and tell her she needed some more yarn, that she needed to spin some more of the natural gray. So I do need to give a call and get more yarn so I can make more progress. But I'll tell you, that take about 15 minutes. If you ever want a fast project, knit something on size 19 needles.
Yeah.
It hardly feels like knitting, honestly. I mean, I can see why people really don't like using needles that big, because my hands don't hold them the same way. I can't tension the yarn the same way. It's just a whole different, it doesn't feel like knitting. It was fun. I didn't mind doing it. It's not like I'm, saying, oh, I don't like knitting with that big of needles. It didn't hurt my hands or anything, but like you just sit down and your hands go and your head doesn't have to think about it, and you just autopilot knit, which is what stockinette normally is. It didn't feel like that at all, because it was a whole different It's like my normal pattern of movement doesn't work with size 19 needles.
No.
So, but it's so fast. I think I finished one of the fronts in a couple of hours.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's really fast. I think it turned out to be like, I'm not remembering probably correctly, but I think it was something like 16 rows before I started decreasing for the underarms. Mm-hmm. You know, you bind off for the underarms. Mm-hmm. And so then maybe another 6 rows after that. I mean, honestly, I don't even think there's 30 rows.
So when you sew it together, what are you going to sew it together with?
I have gray sock yarn that I'm going to use.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the mohair...
Is that what the pattern recommends?
It does say that it's difficult to sew together with the mohair yarn. Yeah.
Okay.
And I can see why it would be. I mean, it's... Yeah. Typically, if you have a really bulky yarn or like a really fragile yarn or like an eyelash yarn, like a novelty yarn, you'll use something else to sew it together.
Okay.
So that's what my plan is. And I guess I could sew it together now. I don't have to wait till I have the sleeves done. But
you could wear it as a vest for a while.
I could.
A Sonny Bono vest.
Robert said, maybe you don't even need arms. Maybe just make a vest. But I think I want the sleeves. It's more elegant as a jacket.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And. Yeah.
So what was Robert's response to this jacket?
Oh, he thought it was cool. He's like, didn't you have one of those? I mean, everybody knows about this jacket I used to have. I still have to go looking for that picture. Maybe I'll try to find it before I post the show notes for this episode. I should have some time this weekend. Last weekend I was busy, so I didn't get a chance to do it, but maybe this weekend I'll be able to.
Well, and do you think your mother might have the picture?
No, I have it. I know I have it. The reason I know I have it is because when I made the wall hanging, I made a series of, I guess you don't call it a series. I made 2. I got sort of obsessed and I made 2, and I was going to make more, but never did. Rugs that are locks. They're just woven locks. So I had the warp on the loom, and then I would just take locks and lay them into the warp as weft, and then throw a pick of yarn and beat it. In one of them, I did more than one pick of yarn between each row of locks, and in the other one, I just did a row of locks, a pick of yarn, a row of locks, a pick of yarn. And I made these 2 rugs. One of them was actually a rug. I had it on the floor for a really long time. People might sort of cringe when they hear this next part, but we now use it when we go camping for Rudy to have a rug to lay on at the campsite. And so
it's in the dirt.
It's in the dirt, yeah. It moves around wherever she wants to be, by the fire, by us, by the trailer. When it's by the trailer, we have like a little mat. But if she wants to be by the fire, I move it over there. It's wool. It cleans up really nicely. And so I have that one, and then there's one that was from a really pretty fleece that I sat next to at the fair for like a week during the fair time when it used to be in the summer and I wasn't at school. And I sat next to this fleece all week long, drooling over it. And then I bought it, and I didn't want to spin it because it was just too pretty. I mean, like as a fleece, it was too pretty. And so I made one of these rugs with it. So in my weaving class, the weaving teacher was hell-bent that I was going to make a vest out of this rug, like in this style, right? And I really wanted one, but I had other projects that I wanted to make. And once I had done 2 of these, I was kind of like, okay, I'm moving on to a new style of weaving now. But I found the picture for her because I wanted to show her that I actually had something like that at some point. So I know I have it. I just don't exactly know where it is. I have a big basket where I stash pictures. When my nieces were little, my sister would send, everybody always got double prints and then would send pictures. And so I'd put them on the refrigerator for a while. And then when I was done with that batch on the refrigerator, I'd collect them up and they'd go in the basket with all the other pictures. So I think it's in that basket, But I just haven't had a chance to get that basket out and start. Like, they're all just randomly tossed in there. They're not in any organized way, which is really fun. I know once I start that project, it's going to be a couple of hours of going down memory lane. So I haven't had time to, get that basket out and start going through the pictures. Mm-hmm. So that's a good news project. I'm making good progress on it. It's going well. I just need to get more yarn. I don't want to start the sleeve with the one skein I have because I want to make sure that the skeins are roughly the same color. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's variation in the color, but I don't want to get a skein that's a lot different. So in case the next skein is not exactly the right color, I could even alternate skeins if I had to. Yeah. So I'm waiting until I have to call. I think I'll call either today or tomorrow, and or tomorrow or the next day, and see if I can order more of that yarn. Okay. So that's that. And then the next thing is bad news.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so this weekend on Sunday was a birthday party for my grandnephew who turned 7. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like 50-something degrees here. It was cold and threatening rain, and it was in a park. And so I spent a few hours cold, all bundled up in a park watching kids do a birthday party and visiting with my mom and my sister, and it was fun. I'm not saying it wasn't fun, but it was just cold. Mm-hmm. So I got home, got my pajamas on, got my knitting, started to work on my Koru cardigan with the nice Dragonfly fibers, rustic silk. Got going, and I think I got about 2 inches on it. And then so that was on Sunday. And then the other night I was looking at it, and it's like, okay, all of a sudden my little traveling stitches started traveling the wrong way. Yeah. They were always going to the right, and now they suddenly are going to the left. And on the other one, they were always going to the left, and now they're suddenly going to the right. And I couldn't figure out what it was that I did, but I think it is that I printed out the pattern, and I swapped the printed out version of the pattern with the pattern that I had drawn out, and I think I swapped the left front for the right front. My
thought was that you were making the stitch the wrong way. Like, you know how like they lean right, they lean left?
Yeah.
And you were just...
No, because there's like a diagonal row of yarn overs and it's going the wrong direction. Okay. And I was racking my brain like, did I all of a sudden start reading the chart backwards? Because I caught myself a few times doing that. But that messes up the logic. Like you see where the stitches are supposed to go. And it's like, no, wait, that's wrong. And then I would catch it. So I thought, that can't be it. But then I remembered today when I was thinking about it that I switched the version that I wrote out for myself with the printed version of the charts. And I think when I did that, I think I might have by accident swapped the left chart and the right chart.
Okay.
So I have about 2.5 inches that I have to rip out. I know. Size 3 needles. Yeah.
Well, as you know, this is not going to help what I'm about to say, but you do know it. As soon as you rip it out, you move on.
I won't notice. Yeah. I mean, a week from now, I won't know. So it's just a matter of when I rip it out, I have to pay attention. Mm-hmm. I have to put in some locking stitch markers so I rip only to a certain point.
Right.
And then I have to put it all back on the needles and make sure I'm in the right, and then back up enough or check it to make sure I'm in the right place on the chart. So it's just a production that has to happen, and I'm not ready to do a production.
So the other thing is it's too much to, that technique of ripping back a section and knitting it. You know how...
yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I wonder if You know what? Because silk is not real stretchy, I have a feeling, I don't know. I might try that. I hadn't thought about that until you just said it.
Well, I now that I've said it, I made a linen top that Summer Fjord. I made that out of linen, and I had that problem where I just ripped back just that section of maybe like 10 stitches or something, and even with washing, it doesn't look right.
Oh.
And I think that so linen has no stretch either, just like the silk doesn't. So I think it might be difficult to
make the stitches look
it won't
good.
Look. Yeah, make the stitches look
well,
good.
and
so
they're
now
like
that
twisted stitches where you really want good stitch definition. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to rip it out.
Yes. So just forget everything I just said, and you just need to rip it out.
Okay. Will do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
doctor's orders.
Yeah, and then after that, there were a few days where I was like, okay, I don't even feel like knitting. I don't feel like starting anything. I'm just gonna come home from work and I'm just gonna like sit on the couch and watch something on the Netflix and feel sorry for myself. But so I'm gonna bring it back up here, bring it back to the light.
Oh, good. Okay.
So Heidi Craft on Ravelry, she's one of the women who goes to the Knockers retreat, and she posted in the Knockers group that she had finished the bath mitt, the Elizabeth Doherty bath mitt pattern.
Oh, right, yeah.
So 2 years ago, we had a class on this bath mitt out of linen, and so she had finished the bath mitt. She had decided she needed to finish this bath mitt before Knockers. So I was joking with her, and I said, okay, now the gauntlet has been thrown down. I think I need to go find a project from Spirit Yarn and get it made before Knockers. So she didn't do that on purpose, but I was like, okay, that's a challenge. Now I have to go do it. So I grabbed some yarn that I have from Knockers. It's acrylic, Karen's Simply Soft Shadows, and there was a whole bag of it, like 4 skeins, and I decided to make a hat. You know how they collect hats, for St. Anthony's, the Franciscan brothers. So I thought, well, I'll make a hat, and I probably won't get 4 hats. I won't probably go through all the yarn, but I'm going to try. That's my challenge. I could probably do it. That's my challenge. And it's nice knitting. It's just ribbing and then stockinette in the round and, plain old hat. It's a little bit variegated. It's gray with, actually the color is called Mardi Gray, so it's kind of timely. It's a gray with it started as a blue with an orange, and then it changes to orange and then yellow. It's like 1 strand of color and 3 strands of gray.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a really muted gradient. So it's a fun project. And now I have a purpose, a knitting purpose. Get all this done by Knockers, which is in mid-April, so.
Yeah. So is that it for projects for you?
And that's it. So Marsha, this is our patron appreciation episode.
Yes.
So last time I talked about the fact that in Patreon, I had found out that they did not allow in their terms of service to have a giveaway on Patreon for your patrons as one of your premiums. So what we have is our premium for our patrons at the $5 level and up. We have it's a patron appreciation episode on the show, which is this one, where on the show we have a giveaway. So first of all, I just want to thank all of our patrons. We have 21 patrons. It's so gratifying to see that people are interested in supporting the show this way. It takes money to run a podcast and buy prizes, and we do try to purchase prizes because that helps dyers to have business as well as since we can, it's nice to purchase prizes. We do get some prizes donated to us, and that's always appreciated, but not everybody can afford in their small business to give away prizes to podcasters. And so anyway, we do some purchasing of prizes. We pay for hosting of the show, and that of course costs a monthly charge. Oh, and by the way, this is just a kind of let me just go off on a little tangent for a second.
Okay.
It's kind of sad to me that the hosting fees for video podcasts are so much that people have abandoned their video podcasts and moved to YouTube, which is free. I mean, I didn't watch very many video podcasts, but there were a few of them that I had in my podcast app that I would watch, or I would turn them on and just listen. Most of the time, that's what I would do. But now, most of them have just gone to YouTube, and without them just coming straight into my podcast app, you know, if I have to remember, oh yeah, I got to go check to see if so-and-so has a new episode, it's a lot harder for me to see them.
Yeah.
Audio podcast hosting is not as expensive as video podcast hosting, so I can understand why people are doing that, but it is kind of sad. I had some video podcasts that I really liked seeing pop up in my podcast app.
Yeah.
So anyway, so getting back to our main point here.
Yes.
The patrons that we have allow us to be able to purchase prizes and mail prizes and even mail prizes internationally if we have to, and pay our hosting fees and all of that. And so, you know, the fact that people are willing to contribute to that so that everyone who listens to the podcast can enjoy it, it's just, I just think that's really gratifying. I feel humbled and also very appreciative of that. So thank you so much to the patrons.
Yes. Yes. So, and I'm just going to say who the patrons are.
Okay.
So we have, as we said, 21. So very quickly, we have Barbara, Karen, Catherine, Debbie, Elena, Erica with a C, Erica with a K, Janet, Patricia, Jen, Lori, Mary, Clyde, Rachel S., Rachel W., Vicky, Angela, Becky, Charlene, Joyce, and Joy Lane. So thank you to all of those listeners who are patrons. Very much appreciated.
Yes. So now we have our giveaway, and the first skein is a skein that we just got at Stitches West. It's a neighborhood fiber company, and it is a studio sock, 100% superwash merino, 400 yards, 4 ounces, and the colorway is called Sandy Point, and it's a beautiful combination of, on one end, grays and purples, and then on the other end, it's a pink and sort of a fuchsia and pink color sprinkled with purple. It's really a beautiful color, especially for someone who likes purple. So, do we have a winner for this skein, Marsha?
Yes. Drum roll, please.
All right.
Shall I announce the winner?
Yes, please do.
So the winner is number 14, Rachel S.
All right.
So Rachel, private message Kelly, and she'll, with your contact information, she'll get the skein to you.
Yes, and
now,
if I don't hear from you in a little while, I want to let the winners hear that they won on the episode, because that's more fun. But if I don't hear from someone, I will contact. I do have your contact information. I will contact you on Patreon.
Okay, and so now we have a second skein of yarn,
yes.
Kelly.
So
describe that one.
So this one is called Swoon, and this is unusual for neighborhood fiber company names, because most of the time the neighborhood fiber company names are places. It's a Baltimore company, and the places are neighborhoods or streets or squares or, you know, locations. But this one is called Swoon. The base color is like a sea glass turquoise green, and then it has some darker green and some little darker turquoise, and then it has some sections that have a little bit of yellow, and then it has speckles of a navy. Not overpoweringly, but just a little bit, splashes of navy in amongst the turquoise and green. So it's also studio sock, 100% superwash merino, 400 yards and 4 ounces. So who's the lucky winner of this one?
Okay, drum roll. It's number 18, Becky.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to both Becky and Rachel S. Thank you so much for your support and Patreon. You allow us to be able to have giveaways not just for our Patreon listeners, but also for our other listeners.
Mm-hmm. So again, thank you to everybody. And then, Kelly, you were going to touch on the winter weave along?
Yes. Our winter weave along, we started way back in sometime in the fall. And we've been weaving away. There's quite a few finished objects in the thread in Ravelry. And in our next episode, we're going to talk more about weaving, and the winter weave along will be almost over. I didn't look at the calendar. I know this makes riveting audio as I look at my calendar. So 2 weeks from now will be the 27th. So we won't quite be finished with the winter weave along. But I wanted to make sure that people were aware that it was coming to an end on March 31st. And then I think the episode after it ends, we'll talk more about weaving. We'll talk about the projects and we'll do our drawings for the winter weave along in that episode. So not the next episode, but the one after that, a celebration of weaving.
Okay. And then our last item of business is recommendations.
Yes.
And Kelly, you have a recommendation.
I do.
I hear what this is.
Yes. I actually have two recommendations inside of another recommendation. So my first recommendation is coming home after work and immediately going upstairs and putting on your pajamas.
Oh.
I highly recommend that.
I'm sorry. I do that all the time, right?
Yes, I do
thought
too.
You were going to recommend a book or something.
Well, I have something else to recommend, but I have to say, sometimes when I say that I'm in my robe to someone, or someone comes by and I'm in my robe and pajamas, and they're like, "It's so early." Well, yes, I come home from work. I don't do it all the time, and today I was home. This was I got home at 5:15 today, which was the earliest I've been home this week. And right away, immediately, upstairs, put on my pajamas before I even got ready to podcast. So yeah, I highly recommend that. If you don't usually do that, try it. Trust me, you'll love it.
And it's important to put your pajamas on and have a glass of wine.
Yeah, that helps.
Does that
or
help?
tea.
Or
I mean, it depends. If you don't
beer.
drink wine, you can have tea, or you can have a beer, or you can have a glass of water.
Of your choice.
But the pajamas are key. Getting those pajamas on, slippers. And then when you have your pajamas on, I have two TV show recommendations. This past couple of weeks, I've been coming home and just putting something on because I needed to veg. So one thing that I can recommend is a series called Case Histories. And I think it's a British crime show. And I think it's from 2013. So it's not like this is a hot off the press recommendation. But Case Histories, that's the one I've been most recently watching. And then the other one that I got hooked on and watched was Unforgotten. And Unforgotten is about cold cases. And again, a British police procedural, I guess you call them, about cold cases. So I think they're both Amazon Prime. Very good. Highly recommend.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll check those out. I have Amazon Prime, but honestly, I never watch any of the shows, so I should start doing that.
Oh, you need to get your money's worth. That's the way I feel. Like I feel, I need to get my money's worth. I should watch TV.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Okay. I get into bed with my laptop propped up on my lap and watch Netflix, and so yeah.
Yeah, Robert, he's working swing shift now, so I go to bed much earlier than he actually gets home. And there's been a couple of nights where I've fallen asleep watching some show on his iPad. He's like, "What were you doing with my iPad in the bed?" "Oh, I was watching a TV show."
Yeah.
We have exciting lives. Robert and I. You know what he watches? Well, of course you do know what he watches. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. The Waltons.
Yes.
over and over. I think he's seen every episode of the Waltons at least a dozen times. At least a dozen times. I'll come home from work, and when he's in the mood to just like veg on his weekend when he's home, during the week I'll come home, and he'll be upstairs laying on the bed watching the Waltons. Mm-hmm. So that's his comfort TV.
So what's the interest? What's this fascination with the Waltons? Do you have any idea what it is?
No.
About it that's so
No. Huh. I think he likes that all the family and extended family all lives in the same house.
Yeah.
I don't know. He likes, if we ever had children, he wanted to name our son, if we had a son.
John Boy and Ellen.
No, Zebulon, after the grandpa. Grandpa Walton. Mm-hmm. And our wedding vows. Mm-hmm. Now, this is way off the subject of knitting. We had to write our own wedding vows. That was one of the things I wanted to do. It made him crazy. He really, he was so out of his comfort zone. But the wedding vows that he finally ended up writing came directly from Grandpa Walton in an episode of The Waltons.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, next time I'm down there, I have to look at your wedding album because you have your vows in there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to reread his. Then.
Yeah. He said he got the idea from Grandpa Walton in one of the episodes of The Waltons. So, yeah. It's a big part of his life.
Well, when we were down at the beach last week, I went with my brother and our friend Gary, and at night we would all go to our respective bedrooms to go to bed, and Gary would call from his room, "Good night, John Boy."
Yes.
"Good night, Mary Ellen."
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just yell back, "Go to sleep." Anyway, yes. Kelly, I think we're enough off topic now.
Yes.
That it might be time to say goodbye.
Yeah. It's time to say good night, John Boy.
Yeah. All right. Well, good night, Mary Ellen.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us
doing our part for World Fleece.